Okay, this next story is something that we've been talking about on this channel for a while, and now the mainstream media is finally starting to admit it. Joe Biden's cognitive decline is undeniable.
One of the things we also do in the year-end correspondence roundtable is dig into what was undercovered or underreported. Jan?
Undercovered, underreported. That would be, to me, Joe Biden's obvious cognitive decline that became undeniable in the televised debate.
At the presidential debate with Donald Trump.
Unquestioned. And, you know, it's starting to emerge now that his advisors kind of managed his limitations. It's been reported in the Wall Street Journal for 4 years. And yet he insisted that he could still run for president. We should have much more forcefully questioned whether he was fit for office for another 4 years, which could have led to a primary for the Democrats. It could have changed the scope of the entire election. Yet, still, incredibly, we read in the Washington Post that his advisors are saying that he regrets that he dropped out of the race. You know, that he thinks he could have beaten Trump. And I think that is either delusional or they're gaslighting.
President Biden has said repeatedly he was sick during the debate June 27th in Atlanta, and he's always been fine, and he leaves fine. That is his position, the position of many of his top aides as well, even though there is that reporting.
Robert Cox.
Why would ABC, Disney, the mouse, who has more money than God, settle with Donald Trump?
I honestly don't know.
You know, I've asked, why would ABC? But people ask me all the time, why is the media so mamsy-pamsy? And there are two explanations. One is they are convinced that if they would just move a little bit to the right, all those MAGA readers out there, now you'll notice the contradiction in terms, MAGA readers, would pick up the Washington Post and they would have more readers. What is the logical fallacy here? Yes, reader. And there is nothing that the Washington Post could possibly do that would have those people take out a subscription. But they're convinced they're in there someplace.
During a year-end correspondence roundtable, one of the reporters admitted that Biden's obvious cognitive decline was underreported. They noted that his limitations were being managed by his advisors, which has been reported in the Wall Street Journal for years. They also pointed out that Biden's claim of being sick during the presidential debate is not credible and that they should have more forcefully questioned whether he was fit for office. In a bit of a strange ending to the story, one of the commentators said that Biden regrets dropping out of the race, thinking he could have beaten Trump.
So what do you think, Scott? Will this Trump endorsement put him over the top?
I hope so, because the longer Republicans engage in this infighting, the longer it's going to be until we get started on Donald Trump's agenda. I think that's why Donald Trump came out for Mike Johnson so strongly. He wants Republicans to set all of this infighting aside and get focused.
We've got Trump making a huge announcement, a fiery debate over the border, and even the mainstream media finally admitting something we've been saying for a long time. Let's get into it.
Focused on passing bills. I think he'd love to sign some bills into law right after he takes the oath of office on January 20th. So if you spend all this time or days fighting over the speaker, you leave less time for getting started on his agenda. So I think it's going to be important.
Do you think, Scott, that the Republican Party can survive another major speakers battle like what happened to McCarthy last year?
I mean, the party can survive it. It's just why do we need to think about having to survive something when we have an obvious option here? Mike Johnson has done a good job. Look, anytime the numbers are this close, it's going to be a very difficult job, and there are things that aren't going to go smoothly every single time, and we just have to accept that. Johnson's done a good job. The president trusts him. The president won the election, and a lot of Republicans won because of Donald Trump and the agenda he put forward. So what Donald Trump is saying is, get me a speaker that I trust and that I can work with so we can begin to pass my agenda. That ought to be a good enough reason for any member of the House Republican Conference. We've got a very closely divided House. The only way to move anything forward here is to have teamwork, to stick together. Republicans need to start that process with the speaker's vote.
All right, first up, the big news of the day. Donald Trump has officially endorsed Mike Johnson for Speaker of the House. Yes, you heard that right. Trump took to Truth Social to declare that Johnson is a good, hardworking, religious man who will do the right thing and help push his agenda forward. He also stated that this endorsement is to make America great again. Johnson quickly responded on X, thanking Trump for his support and committing to the America First agenda. Now, this endorsement might seem like a slam dunk, but it's far from it. There's a lot of division within the Republican Party about this. Some, like Thomas Massie, are very skeptical. Massie pointed out that Johnson has partnered with Democrats on issues like sending money to Ukraine and authorizing spying on Americans. He even says that Trump's endorsement of Johnson is going to work out about as well as his endorsement of Paul Ryan, which is not good. And this isn't just Massie. There are at least 4 hard holdouts against Johnson. Congresswoman Victoria Spartz stated that she is not committed to voting for Johnson, saying that he needs to lay out a plan for how he will deliver on President Trump's agenda. The big question now is, why is Trump backing Johnson so hard? Scott Jennings on CNN believes it's because Trump wants to avoid another speaker battle and he wants to get his agenda going after his inauguration. But according to what Desidrano said, Trump didn't endorse Johnson for nothing and that there was some sort of deal and that Trump got what he wanted. The motion to vacate could happen at any time and MAGA holds all the leverage. Some think the resistance to Johnson is futile and that they should work to make him the best version of himself. Others think they should keep replacing speakers until they get it right. So the question is, will this endorsement unify the party or cause even more division? Will Johnson be able to deliver on Trump's agenda? Or are we in for another speaker showdown?
Our next guest says she is not committed in her vote for Johnson. GOP Congresswoman Victoria Spartz joins us now. Congresswoman, thanks for being with us right now. Why are you not committed to Speaker Johnson as the next Speaker of the House?
Well, I'll tell you, I look at people's track record, and unfortunately, we will not be able to deliver on President Trump's agenda as the same happened in 2016, because it has to be done legislatively if we don't have Speaker with the courage, vision, and a plan. And if Speaker Johnson wants to be a speaker, then he needs to lay out that plan and commit to that plan, not like what he did last year. He committed on the House floor to have a fiscal commission, so we have planned for that ceiling increase, which President Trump is right about. We have no plan. He was afraid to put it on the floor. He was afraid to put budget on the floor. Except post office bill, we could not accomplish anything. So I can give him a chance, but I would like to hear from him how he's going to be delivering this agenda and what plan he has, and he hasn't been doing it.
Trump has now endorsed him, so things are looking up. But he can only lose 2 votes. There are so far, by our count, at least 4 hard holdouts so far. And if you're Speaker Johnson, right, those 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people, everybody's going to know their names because they're going to wield basically all of the power on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, the question is, do they care more about the American people and getting stuff done for the American people, or do they care more about keeping their seats? Now, if they care more about keeping their seats, they'll get in line when Trump says, I need you to do this, and they'll do it. If they care about the American people, though, they will look to work across the aisle. They'll look to actually get stuff done. They'll look to do more than investigate and argue and search for porn on the floor, whatever it is that other folks were doing there. But I think
Johnson.
Not Speaker Johnson.
Because he has that app on his
maybe
phone.
Matt Gaetz. But I mean, the bottom line is, do you care more about the people or do you care more about the seat? That's what it's going to come down to.
Alright, so what are we to make of all of this? Well, it's clear that the political landscape is as turbulent as ever. Trump's endorsement of Johnson is a gamble, and it remains to be seen whether it will pay off. The battle over the border continues to be a flashpoint, and the media is under increasing pressure to report the facts without bias. Now, I want to hear from you. What do you think will happen with the speaker vote? Is Johnson the right choice? Do you agree with the media's assessment of Biden? Sound off in the comments below. I want to know your thoughts. Thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to support the channel further, check out the link in the description below. Until next time, stay informed and stay engaged. This is Themba from Black Coffee Podcast presenting on behalf of Black Coffee himself.